Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 100 Acres of Ink. I'm Tegan. I'm here with Chris, and what is this, episode 4?
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
We're doing a thing, and we're doing it somewhat regularly.
Yeah, look at us.
I think today's episode is going to be a little bit shorter than normal. I know both you and I are in LCQ prep and in pretty deep prep, so we don't have a ton of time on our hands this week. What have you been up to this week in terms of getting ready for LCQs and just kind of around Lorcana?
Sure. Most of it's been finalizing my 60. I think I'm on a spicy little thing for Green Steel. I've shared it with some folks in the Lore Hunters group. Um, uh, we played a game at locals yesterday,
Yep.
which you got to see some of the spice. I'm not going to reveal too much in case somebody listening to this shows up at LCQs and we end up across the table from each other. But trust me, it'll be really funny if it happens to you. Um, it's gonna be honestly a very fun experience. It definitely doesn't play the normal way you would expect, like a green steel list to play. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. I definitely enjoyed one of the spice. Like you took one of my favorite cards in the game actually to play, and are playing it in that deck. So that really excites me. I've been doing much the same, trying to finalize the 60 and doing a lot of prep. I'm going up to Sacramento tomorrow for the pretty good Lorcana tournament, which will be I think 7 rounds of Swiss. There's like over 100 people registered. So yeah, we'll see how it goes tomorrow. I'm planning on playing the 60 that I'm planning on taking to LCQ. Um, so we'll see how it goes, and it should give me a good sample size. It's best of two
Mhm.
versus best of three, but I think regardless, um, should have a decent amount of sample data throughout the day. Um, be interesting to see what the meta is there.
Mhm.
And kind of how it compares to LCQ once we get down there. But
Yeah, no, that definitely sounds like it's gonna be a really fun event. And for an event that size, it's at least I think would you say a couple hundred people at least?
I think there's 100, a little over 100. I asked, I can actually pull it up. I asked a few days ago and found out that, okay, they had 70 on the 30th.
Ah.
So there's been a few days since then. So like it might climb a little bit.
Mhm.
And of course, maybe day of, I think their cap is like 120 or something. So
It's not bad, but yeah, actually something like that might who knows? Maybe this has a decent effect on LCQs. We've already had one pretty spicy event with the Battle for the Bay. Shout out to you and the organizers for that because that was always really fun.
well, there was a decent tournament down in Santa Clara too at Game Castle
Mhm.
Santa Clara. I don't know if you saw the results for that, but they just published the top 8 on Inkdex.
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier. That was actually really interesting to look at. Uh,
The Lore Keeper Showdown. There was 47 players.
mhm.
Uh, top 8. Not all of them got published. I'm guessing because people didn't want their decks published. But I don't know. You made top 8 at a big tournament, like
Yeah.
your deck's going to be out there. The ones that are published, there's red blue won it. It looks like, and then there's a green purple, 2 green purple lists in the top 8. Uh, a and then 2 amber amethyst, one hyper aggro, and one a little bit more mid range.
Mhm.
So kind of interesting. One purple steel.
Yeah. Definitely an interesting spread of decks. Fun to note that the top eight has no ruby amethyst in it. So that's just it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely missing a couple of decks. We have
Oh.
one first place. We have 2 third place decks. I'm gonna
Hmm.
guess that that's the second and third. There's one that says top 4, so that's the fourth place deck,
Hmm.
and then there's 2 in the top 8.
Hmm.
So if there was Ruby Amethyst or Amber Steel, they didn't make top 4. It looks
Hmm.
like.
Yeah, if they would be anywhere, it looks like they'd probably be like 6 and 7, depending on how this list ends up. But who knows? Maybe they'll publish more results in the next couple days.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch and keep an eye on.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna be anxious to see how the pretty good tournament turns out tomorrow. I'm waking up at like 5:45 to leave. Check-in starts at 8, and then the tournament starts at 9, and I'm carpooling with our friend Ben,
Mhm.
and we're gonna leave in between 6:30 and 7, so I need
Got
to
it.
be in Concord by 6:30.
Valid.
Uh, so it's gonna be an early, long day. Maybe I can catch a couple Z's in the car, but, we'll see how it goes. Um, I don't know too much other, in terms of headlines. I think, a couple of things. This morning, there was the announcement about side events at Nationals. I think by and large, I'm not super impressed with what they're offering for side events. And I think that's kind of been the response in general. Like a lot of the side events, you get a participation like promo card, so you get like a non-foil Baymax or a non-foil Cusco, and then it's just like pack per win,
Mhm.
which is like not great. It doesn't seem like there's a prize wall or any other way to like get prizing other than the participation prizes.
Mhm.
So I think somebody was looking at the multiplayer is like $90 for a team to enter, and you get the promo and then pack per win.
Yeah.
uh like, I don't know, that's a lot of money, I guess. I mean, I guess they're factoring the promo into it, right? Of like, if the promos hold to be at around like $100 or whatever, like the promos for the other DLCs. I have to feel like these promos are going to go for more because there's only one Continental.
Yeah.
um
The market will probably settle in the next couple of weeks, and you'll probably see it somewhere in the vicinity of 150, maybe.
that would be my guess. I don't know. I was looking at Baymax armored companion on eBay, and like there's one for 140, there's one for 300, there's one for 120. um which, see, I don't know, it seems low, like, to me, honestly, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get a playset. Obviously, with the Turbo Zone, I'll be able to get two, and then I just have to find two other side events, I guess, to enter.
Yeah.
I'm not going to feel good about it, but I want a playset of the non-foil Baymaxes. So
Yeah. I just want the Cuscos. I just want them. They're not particularly playable anymore, but they're pretty, and I want them.
yeah, I mean, they're both of them are pretty. I have been playing Baymax in my like Blue Steel tempo list, which I'm not taking to LCQ. I think I've decided.
Yeah.
It's close, but it's just not quite there. And if you fall behind, it's too hard to come back.
Yeah.
Um, and I think Emerald Amethyst has a better chance to win on the draw.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. Which is
so
actually a really important thing, especially in a best of three format, which is what we're going into with the LCQs and nationals. Which
yeah,
is
you're not going to win every die roll, right?
nope. If you do, somebody's gonna call a judge and be like, "Hey, I'm pretty sure these are loaded dice."
Yeah, right. Um, it would be nice to win every die roll. If we win every die roll, I'm going to Continentals
Yeah.
because I
Same.
feel really good about my deck on the play.
Same.
Uh, on the draw, though, it can
Mm.
be a little rough. I did just win on the draw against Purple Steel, which is like the worst matchup. So, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. Anything can happen any given Sunday, right? Um, all right, let's dive into our judge segment. I know I don't have a slide for this this time, but uh, this one actually came up in a game that you and I were playing.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I want to spill the tea here, but um, I have been experimenting with the Mad Hatter. And the Mad Hatter is a purple one drop from this set uh, from set six. And Mad Hatter reads, uh, when this character quests, you may look at the top card of chosen player's deck, and then you can put that card either on top of the deck or in the discard. Um, I think the specific wording is look at,
Mhm.
which is important. There's a lot of cards that say reveal the top card, but this
Mhm.
is look at. So this is a card that only I get the information
Mhm.
of. And the question we were asking was, what happens if my opponent just reveals it instead of letting me look at?
Mhm. And this one actually gets a little harder because this isn't just a cut and dry kind of, hey, here's an ability and here's how this resolves and here's why this resolves this way. This actually gets more down to the judge call in this case. This is probably still something you want to call a judge for, especially if it happens. I know, I think, and this is going to get a little weird. This is a little more emotional than it is just a specific. Here's the way that it works in the rules. Uh, for the way that this card works, I think if I were to make this call at a local event, I think my call would be honestly, it's still your effect. You still get to choose if you want to put it on the Discord or put it on the top of your opponent's deck. Um, it ultimately doesn't change what your opponent gets to do, right? Because whether or not they know about it, great. Now it's in the top of their deck, but it's during your turn, so it's ultimately not going to affect them. Um, Although I think the more correct answer here, now that I'm talking it through, is to probably randomize the deck and then resolve the effect. Because now that I'm thinking about it, if you choose not to put it in the discard for whatever reason, then they're going to get that, and that gives them information which they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
So let me revise that answer. Yeah, if this occurs, I would call a judge. I'd say my call for this would actually be instead randomize the deck and then have you then I would take the deck, hand it to you, go, cool, go ahead and please resolve your ability, which allows you to look at the top card of your opponent's deck. You can make the decision if you want to put that in their discard or leave it on the top, and then I would hand the deck back to your opponent. Because at that point, right, you're the only one who's supposed to have that information, and you're the only one who's supposed to be able to make the decision whether or not it gets revealed by being put in the discard or whether it stays there with just you having access to it.
Yeah, I think the fact that I'm the only one that's supposed to know is important in some ways, right? Like, yes, they're gonna find out as soon as it's their turn,
Hmm.
to draw it, but, like, conversation happens, and, like, I definitely have seen players where they're not necessarily angle shooting, but if they're trying to talk through a turn and the other person makes a comment, it could sway your decision. And if that
Yeah,
person is making a comment based on the knowledge that they now have of what's on the top of their deck and what's in their hand,
yeah.
they could be trying to mislead you. And
Hmm.
so I I do think it is important that, like, they not know what the information is,
Yeah.
um, and it leave you to have it. I don't know what is gonna happen if it happens at LCQ. I'll report back.
Yeah, please. If any of you watching this, I think we've got a good like 20 viewers who tend to watch this. If that ever happens to you, if you get a judge call, please comment, let us know because I definitely want to know what the experience is here. Because this is definitely definitely one of those effects that we're gonna want to probably pay attention to because there's probably going to be other ones like this where it gets to be one side gets information and the other doesn't.
I uh, I like to be very um, clear about it.
Mhm.
Like when I'm playing it, I say, like, I read the ability, and then when I go to activate it, I say I get to look at the top of your deck.
Mhm.
Um, and make sure I'm phrasing it that way rather than, can you reveal the top of your deck or whatever, and try to be very clear about that.
Mhm.
And I'll even be clear about it and say, you don't get to see it. I get to look at it, but you don't get to see it. Just to make sure there are not those mistakes.
Yep, that makes perfect sense.
Cool. Well, let's move into our main topic today. I know, we last week we talked about how to kind of prepare for a meta and how to prepare a deck selection and how to test. But you and I were kind of talking about as we get closer to LCQ, like, what are the things that you should do in the day before or the morning of? What are the things to bring with you to a major tournament like this? And
Mhm.
um, maybe the best place to start is the day before. What do you like to do the day before a big event like this?
Um, make sure I eat like, eat my whatever meals of the day, get some sleep. Uh, I know the want is to, play test as much as you can, make sure you have all of your lines down. Ultimately, this is going to sound a little mean, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't have sleep, right? If you're not fully rested, you can't make the best decisions. You're likely to make more misplays. Get some sleep, y'all. Get some sleep, get some be hydrated, be well rested. you're gonna be in for a long day, right? It's not quite like a high level athletic event, sure, but it's still gonna be like physically draining, mentally taxing. You're gonna play a really high level card game, especially for something like LCQs, for several hours. Get some sleep, y'all. Get some food. Like, do what you can to like, cool. I've locked in on what I'm doing, but also like take care of yourselves physically. It's gonna be a long day, and starting the day before is always really good because it gives you a good place to start, especially when you go into that next morning.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is maybe a little bit more applicable to a normal DLC versus an LCQ because I could lose in the first round and be out.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'll get enrolled in a side event for some packs or whatever. But um, ideally, best case, you're playing 5 rounds,
Mhm,
and then the next day you're going to play 7.
mhm,
Um, that's best case scenario. So it really is kind of a marathon, not a sprint, right?
mhm.
That kind of sticks out to me as words. But um, yeah, we talked a little bit about it last week, but you don't want to be up late the night before. Changing your deck all around. I mean, I've done that. It hasn't, it hasn't necessarily suited me.
No, but
Um,
Tegan, no, I promise you, I found the perfect tech. I'm good, I promise.
yeah. It's probably more important in the long run to know your deck, than it is to have the perfect cards in place.
Mhm,
I've kind of been working on locking in my deck. I'm playing with a few slots here and there. I probably have 3 or 4 card slots that are shuffling around, and I'm testing a few different things, but by the time I get to next weekend, like, maybe those are still shuffling around a little bit, but really they should be pretty locked in
mhm.
before next weekend. And for me, they really need to be locked in by Sunday night here this weekend because I'm going to be at Disney with my wife celebrating her birthday and with some of my family Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I don't get to play test next week. I don't get to go to league next week and run some last minute tests. I kind of need to be locked in on Sunday when I head to LA. Uh, because I don't know, I'm gonna bring a binder with some like sideboard stuff and
Mhm.
whatnot, but I need to be pretty locked in, I think, before I leave.
Yeah, no, same. I especially I'm leaving Thursday morning. I don't know if I've mentioned it before. There's an anime convention that same weekend that I go to every year, and I already had tickets for that. The way LCQs worked out, they happen to literally be the same weekend. So I was like, hey, you know what sounds like a good plan? Show up on like day one of con, get my badge, make sure I've got all my stuff, and then Friday run over to Disneyland, play Lorcana for hopefully 5 hours. But if I get my butt kicked, at least I can go hang out with friends afterwards.
Yeah, you get to just leave and go back to your other con.
Yeah. Be like, "Hey, I love y'all. Come hang out with me if you've got time. I'm gonna go hang out with my other friends. Have a good
Yeah.
one."
What's gonna happen though when you make day 2?
Well, at that point, I have to tell my girlfriend and be like, "Hey, um, this was unexpected, but I have to go back on Saturday because I made day one. I'm in nationals, and then when I make day two, it's like, well, this is unexpected. Huh?
But if you make day 2, you're coming home with thousands and thousands of dollars of prizes, so
Huh,
I think
no,
it'll be okay.
at that point, it's gonna be like, cool. I'm just gonna be here an extra couple of days. It's fine. I'm pretty sure nobody will be that hurt if I'm like, hey, look, I won, NA nationals. I have to do a bunch of interviews and things, and also I owe people time because I unfortunately, got stuck playing Lorcana. Oh no.
You talked a little bit about eating the day before. How do you feel about eating day of? I was listening to Alphos and Harlan talk, and Alphos was kind of sharing that like it's really hard to eat day of, right? You're amped up, you're stressed out, and like if you eat and you eat too much, maybe you get a little sleepy and you're not making the right decisions that way too. Um, I don't know. I find it very difficult to eat when I'm at a DLC.
Sure. I will preface this by saying I used to play a lot of sports as a kid. I used to play tennis in high school too, so I used to be an athlete. I'm wasn't that good, but it very much was a, like, cool, you have to learn how to keep your body energized when you're doing a lot of like, you're doing a lot of, physically active or mentally active things. So, like, a thing that I'll do, I'll pack snacks. Like, I'll
Mm,
pack, sometimes it's just a little bit of candy because, like, a little bit of sugar is good when you're like, "I'm kind of lagging and I need to just for a minute." But it's also, like, make sure you have a bottle of water. Make sure you have, like, I'm a sucker for, like, dried fruit and nuts, right? Because it's like, cool, just pop some nuts, great, crunch, 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 great, doesn't leave a bunch of mess on my hands, I can go back to playing cards and not mess up my sleeves. And it's also I'm a little weird because 'cause I'll, like, re research, kinda, like, nearby restaurants and where food is 'cause, I've been to conventions before, I've been to some other TCG tournaments before, I know that, like, hey, if there's a break, everybody's gonna go to, like, these 3 or 4 restaurants that are really close, but if there's one that's just a little bit out of the way, I can probably go there, get food, and not have to worry about fighting with everybody for it, right? It's it's a little bit of logistics, right? It's
sure.
planning ahead for like, hey, I know that there's going to be, in the case of LCQs, up to 5 rounds. I can figure out, I can probably have a little bit of time to like snack on some food in a backpack, or like make sure I get a bit of water. The Disney Lorcana challenges, the DLCs have been really great because they have. This is really cool. I don't know when they started doing this, but they have the fact that they have water stations like
Mm,
every couple of like quarters is super helpful. Because I I I will tell you as somebody who's gone to like and this was way back to like Magic Grand Prix and stuff. They didn't have that. It was like, cool, make sure you bring your own water, or like you go to a vendor and you buy water. So it's like that takes more time. That takes a lot more energy. So it's nice to just be
sure.
like, oh, there's water. Great. Right? It's sort of logisticsing your way ahead of time if you can to be like, hey, here's where I can get actual food, but also, pack a little bit of fruit if you're good with fruit, nuts if you're good with nuts, right? Some kind of small little snack that you can just be like, cool, I can pop this and not be faint and exhausted and out of energy. And that way, also, when you go to get actual food, you're not like, oh God, I'm so starving. I need to just like cram a bunch of food into my face. You can be like, cool, I'm a little bit hungry, so I can get something kind of light. But I've been kind of snacking throughout the day, so I'm not immediately like, I need more calories to keep myself going, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like to eat Cliff Bars, and I feel like
Yeah,
those are helpful. It's just like a shot of protein.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I really struggled with it at both Vegas and Seattle. I think in part too because I played blue red, and so my games were always like right at time, or like I just like very rarely was done early in a round and had that time to like go get water or go whatever. I just was going from round to round to round.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm not playing red blue this time, so
More
hopefully I'll
time
have
for
a little
snacks and
time.
water.
Yeah, exactly. Um, what about coming day of, like what are other things that you think about bringing? Obviously like a replacement sleeves in
Mhm,
case your sleeves tear. Um, uh, I don't know. I sleeve everything in Dragon Shield Red, matte, and so like I have lots of those sleeves, but I always bring a new box in case I need to change mine out or anything
mhm,
prior to the event. Ideally, you should probably re-sleeve everything before the kind of main event or whatever. I'm not always the best at doing that, but I at least like to have a box of fresh sleeves in case I need to repair a sleeve or there's
mhm,
a sleeve that's looking a little dingy or whatever.
mhm. No, I've done that. There's a I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but there's a because of the way that DLCs work, we always end up being kind of in the same general area just because of the way our last names are. The first DLC I went to in Texas, he had noticed, my sleeves were kinda dingy. He's like, "Hey, I don't you may wanna change out your sleeves just because somebody might call that on you." And sure enough, the next 2 DLCs, when I met up with him next, I was sitting at my table re-sleeving all my cards, and he was like, "Ah, you remembered." So, yeah, same thing. I will usually bring a new box of, I tend to do the dual mats from Dragon Shield. I'm a big fan of the Wisdom, like, blue sleeves. And yeah, I usually bring a fresh box with me and my inner sleeves just so I can be like, cool. Are all my inner sleeves good? Are all my outer sleeves good? Right. I don't want anybody to give any kind of chance to do that if they can. Also, just gets good practice to make sure your sleeves are good. In terms of what else to bring, though, I will usually always make sure I have like 3 extra pens because
Yeah,
inevitably I'm gonna lose one.
I'm gonna lose 2 or 3 during the day.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. At least 2 or 3 extra pens so I can get through at least the first couple rounds before I have to go to a judge and be like, "Hey, can I borrow an extra pen? My pens are gone." I'll bring, dice so I can keep track of damage and things. Yeah, I have, I'm rocking one of the Ultimate Guard flip trays that has a little, storage container for dice on it, but I always bring extra just in case because you never know if dice are small, they go missing, and then it's hard to find them. Never hurts to have extras of those. I'll bring, obviously a water bottle with me, and then I usually make sure to bring, at least 1 notepad. Sometimes if I can find an extra, I'll bring 2 because, right, most of the DLCs and most of the higher level events do ask that you track by pen and paper for your lore, and it never hurts to have an extra just in case one disappears on you. And then it's usually just my mat, my water, my snacks, and my deck box. Um, yeah, that's usually kind of the things I'll bring with me day of. I tend to bring uh, like a sports kind of backpack because it's got a bunch of different little pockets I can put all my stuff in, so I can make sure cool everything's organized. Because starts off really clean at the beginning of the day, everything's well organized, and by round 4, it's like cool, everything's just kind of in the main pocket, but at least I know it's still in the bag.
Yeah.
But it helps.
I think a backpack really helps. I've moved more in that direction. I used to just kinda have, like, my quiver,
Hmm.
and just kinda bring my deck that way, but I've kind of moved in a direction of, like, having a kind of bigger, deck box with, dice and whatever inside of the deck box, like one of the Game Genic ones
Hmm.
or that kind of thing. Um, and that obviously doesn't fit inside of the quiver, and so like
Yeah.
I don't know. I've just kind of moved in that direction. So having a backpack to have that in, also where like so I can have my playmat inside of that too, rather
Hmm.
than just like because with the quiver I was kind of like rolling my playmat and just kind of like holding it or like I bought like the quiver like tube for it and then was trying to like clip that to the quiver and it just felt clunky. So I'm just kind of back to the basic backpack and deck box.
Yeah.
And then mat tube inside. Um, that seems to have worked pretty well for me. Also, I know you and I have talked about these, but these are my dubs. See if I can
Come on,
focus
camera,
my.
do the thing.
I don't know. It's not focusing.
Ah,
It's fine. Um, but these are dubs. They're acoustic filters. I think this company doesn't exist anymore. So Loop is kind of the other one on the market. I know you got Loop.
yes.
Um, so I actually just saw these on my desk and I was like, I need to put these in my pack for tomorrow and make sure I'm ready to go for tomorrow. This is good conversation because I'm going to a fairly big tournament tomorrow.
Hey, timing.
Yeah. Um, dice, pen and paper, pads. I've got the nice thing at the DLCs is they have some.
Hmm.
So I actually have some here. So if you don't have them, don't freak out. Like you can usually go up and get some from the tournament staff or at the check-in.
Hmm.
But if you're playing a non DLC, like it's always good to have something like this, even if it's just a notebook, to keep track in. Some people like using the boogie boards. The boogie boards are legal because they don't have an internal memory.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. Those have always seemed a little wonky to me. I like
I
to
I
use
had
paper.
Yeah, I had somebody buy one, I think at our locals. He literally bought one, came to use it at the event, and like 2 minutes into it, it stopped working, and we had to fight with it for a second to start working again.
Yeah.
So as kind of old school as it is, pen and paper, super easy. You can usually find it anywhere, and it's usually pretty easy to just kind of throw in a backpack.
I think the other thing about the boogie board that I don't like is like once you press the clear, it like wipes the slate and like
Hmm.
the record of that game is gone.
Hmm.
And so I like to try when I finish the match, not while the match is going on, because it could be considered note taking. But after the match, I'll write, okay, this was a, Sapphire Steel deck. I was on the draw. Um, and then that way I can go back and I can look at the at least lore count over the
Hmm.
game and
Hmm.
kind of use that to supplement my memory to like kind of figure out why I might have lost that game,
Mhm.
and how I might improve. Yeah.
No, good plan. We may not be able to take like actual notes during a match, but looking back at where lore totals changed and how they changed, super useful to kind of figuring out, oh, got it. This is where the flow of the game changed here, and this is where, I lost momentum, or this is where I had a bunch of momentum. Super good, especially if you're trying to become better at the game.
Yeah, if you're playing RP and you see it go from like 1 to 4 to 7,
Yeah.
chances are that's Flynn triggering.
Mhm.
So like you can definitely deduct some things. If like you see a huge like jump and you were playing against a Sapphire Steel or a Ruby Amethyst or a Ruby Sapphire deck, well, that was probably dime.
Mhm.
You don't have to like you can't like write that down and say like that was dime or whatever, but um, you can make some assumptions based on it later.
Mhm.
Um, what else? Maybe in terms of like mindset prep, I think that's one of the hard things for me sometimes going into a long day. Um, I think the thing to remember about best of two is like, well, and really like the game in general, it's very difficult to make day twos the way that these tournaments are currently constructed. So, like, don't be too hard on yourself. Like, don't beat yourself up. Like, it's very difficult to make day twos at these. They pretty much demand perfection.
Mhm.
Like, you have to play pretty much perfectly. I don't know how these people do it who have been super consistent. For whatever reason, my ADHD or whatever, I'm never going to play that perfectly. I would love to, but it's just never going to happen. So I don't know. Mindset prep is hard for me a little bit.
Mhm.
You know, you kind of have to just turn the page
Mhm.
after a game, and that can be really hard if you're like shooting yourself in the foot or whatever after maybe a misplay or that kind of thing. Do you have any thoughts or any advice about mindset prep?
I do actually. And this is a piece of advice I stole from I think one of the other bigger podcasts, and I can't remember where at the moment. Um, it might have been Zan's, but there's a thing where a lot of people will usually ask you, "Oh, what's your record? What's your record? What's your record?" You can't focus on that
Mm,
because once you start doing that, you're gonna put a bunch more pressure on yourself. You're gonna start making a lot more mistakes because you're like, oh, I'm already at this record. I can't afford to lose another match, or I can't afford to lose another game, or I can't, you start trying to like get ahead of yourself to not make mistakes. So you're going to make more mistakes. It is by far easier to just be like, cool. I'm just going into my next match. That's it. I don't, I'm not paying attention to what my record is. Great. I won my last game. Cool. I'm on to my next game. Right. It's just take the games as they come. If all you're doing is sitting and focusing on your record, you're gonna put way too much pressure on yourself, and you're gonna start making more mistakes because you're
mm,
now so focused on got it. Like you said it right. A lot of these folks who play at the top levels play almost perfectly, and some of that is definitely going to be the mindset, right? Of, but they can't. There's no way they're being like, "Oh, got it. I have to play everything perfectly." It's just cool. My opponent played this. This is my next play, right? It's not. I'm thinking about this huge, massive picture of where I'm at the tournament. It's got it. My opponent played this. Here's my next play, or here's my answer to this, right? It's focusing down on like this is the current game, and this is the thing that I have to deal with now, as opposed to like right, looking at the huger picture of the tournament and like worrying about that. It's like taking a big deep breath and just being like, cool, I have to deal with this game in front of me right now, and like not worrying about that. That's my thing, is like focus on the game you are currently playing, or like focus on the cool, I have to go to my first match of the day. I'm gonna go play my first match. We're gonna see how it goes. And that's just that, right? That's the mindset of cool. I'm just focused on the small, like the small game in front of me, right?
mhm,
Because otherwise, what are you gonna do if all you're doing is like thinking, got it, I have to, right? I'm using LCQs because it's the next big thing that I'm going to. But right, if all I'm thinking the whole day is, oh, I gotta get to round five, I gotta get to round five, I gotta get to round five. As soon as I make a mistake in round one, that's it. It's over. I'm not getting to round five, right? You gotta be like, cool, I gotta be present in the moment, figure out what might just my next one step forward is, right? That's my advice here is don't panic about the big picture. Don't panic about the whole tournament. Just be like, cool, I'm here. I'm gonna play this game that I really want to play. And I'm here to get to my next match. I'm here to make my next game. I'm here to make my next turn even, right? Especially when you get into like really hard, I don't know how to describe this one, but like really grindy kind of games where you're like, oh, I have to, right? I have to do this. I have to do that. It's just cool. What's your next move, right? Whatever's on your opponent's side of the board, great. The one thing I really love about Lorcana right now, there's no instant speed interaction. So there's never a worry about like, got it. If I play this right now, what is my opponent going to respond with? Like by me playing this right
Mhm.
now, it's just cool. My opponent has their board, they have their cards in hand. I have my board, I have my cards in hand. I've only got to deal with what I'm doing right now. So yeah, that's my advice. Deal with what you have to deal with right now. Don't freak yourself out about like I've got a whole tournament I have to win. I have to do this. I have to do that. Just nope. I'm here for a game. I'm here for this match. I'm here for this next turn.
Yeah, I think thinking about like a turn at a time and really a play at a time, and just like thinking about what is the next best move that I can make right now, and trying to drown everything else out and really just focus on that is like super important.
Mm,
It's definitely improved my play too. I think that combined with some advice that Ben gave me about like what you should be thinking about prioritizing doing on your turn.
mhm,
Um, getting information, right? Like simplifying the game to be
mhm,
like, all right, I'm going to get information, I'm going to control the board state, and then I'm going to get points,
mhm,
right? Like, really, that's what the game comes down to. And if you're doing those three things well, you're going to be just fine. Um, so, simplify the game, slow the game down. I think that's one of those things, you were kind of talking about athletes, right? Like
yeah.
good athletes have this ability to like slow the game down, be in the moment and like focus on that moment right there. They're not worried about the fourth quarter in the second quarter, right? Like they are trying to make an impact right now and catch that ball right now
Mhm,
or make a layup right now. Like
mhm,
that is where they're focused on, and they have this ability to slow the game down and simplify the game,
mhm,
right? They're not worried about the entire scheme or about what the defense is doing. They're just trying to get past that defender.
mhm,
um, that's their objective right
mhm.
now.
The I just thought of this, and this is probably a very clumsy metaphor, but like if you're playing RP and it's turn two, you don't have to worry about B prep. That's 5 turns away. That is not a concern on your brain right now. It's not like it's turn 6 and you know they're gonna go, cool, next turn, ink B prep. You're not there yet.
Yeah.
Don't panic about that. You're not there yet. You have time. Like, and
I
that's
have
the other
4
thing.
turns to find Pete. I have 4 turns to find Ursula, right?
Yeah, you have time. Like, you have so much time. And that's the other thing. Uh, because this is a thing that I'm super guilty of. Like I'll play very quickly and like make a mistake because I'm trying to play fast.
Yeah.
Take your time. These rounds are, I think, what round one is at least 45 minutes. You have time. You've got a good like 15 minutes per match in a best of three. And I think as it gets longer, the rounds get longer. Don't quote me on that. I don't know how accurate that is. But like you have time. Take your time. Like time is only going to be a factor if you get to like game three and you're running out of time. Until that happens, take your time. Make your
Mhm.
plays. Take a deep breath, and like cool. I'm playing my deck. My opponent's playing your deck because it's not like they can. It's right. It's not to steal a thing from Magic. There's no wish boards here. It's not like they can play, a wish, go grab something out of their sideboard and like drop it on you from nowhere. Once you've seen the two colors they're playing, you have a general idea of what they're gonna do. They're not gonna surprise you with something totally out of left field, right? It's not like RP is suddenly gonna drop like an Ursula Deceiver of all, and you have to be like, wait, how? Right? This is yeah, sorry, I'm stuck on the mindset thing, but it's very much a like you you have time and you have space. It's not like you're gonna have 600 people over your shoulder trying to figure out what you're doing, what you're on. Breathe, take a minute, look at your hand, look at what your opponent's doing, and then yeah, like you said, like Ben said, take a minute, simplify the game, get your information where you can get it, and then, control your game, get your points, win the game.
Just win.
Just win.
It's that
It's
easy.
that easy.
Oh goodness. Well, I'm probably not going to see you again until LCQ.
Yeah.
So have a good week and good luck at league and good luck solidifying your list. And we'll see you down there.
Yeah, hopefully it's, you and me at the top tables at nationals. Let's go.
Let's go. I'm just hoping we don't have friendly fire in LCQ. That's my
Yeah,
worry.
that's
We've
the
got a good crew of people coming down, and I just don't want friendly fire.
yeah, it'd be so bad. Alright. Good night, folks. Hopefully, we'll see you in probably 2 weeks because I don't think we're doing anything, that Friday because that's LCQs.
Yeah, probably not. Although I don't know, maybe you and I can get together and record a quick little like in person.
Yeah, special
Here's
special
what
edition,
happened. Yeah,
uh, in-person episode. Alright. Uh, I'll see you guys. I'll see you, Tegan, at the very least in a week, if not 2. And then everybody else, have a great night.
yeah. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in the next one.